Hey, what's up guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking about how I lost 140 pounds in the past 10 months and how microdosing terzepatide was the biggest game changer and key to helping me lose that weight and keep it off. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Dr. Kevin Joseph and I'm an internal medicine physician in upstate New York. I have a passion for cellular medicine and longevity, and my goal with this YouTube channel is to spread that passion and educate as many people as possible to be able to take control of their own health and advocate for themselves when it comes to their medical treatment plans. So without further ado, let's get started. So in February of 2023, I was probably my highest weight ever, and that was 345 pounds. Anywhere from 340 to 345, depending on what I ate the day before. And I just felt miserable. I knew something needed to change, and these are the steps that I took to make that change happen. So the first thing was I needed to treat my underlying issues, and those were twofold. One was I had sleep apnea. So I would stop breathing in the middle of the night. I had headaches every morning, daytime fatigue. It's impossible to try and go to the gym, lose weight, eat healthy if your body is deprived of sleep and you're not thinking clearly. There's something called decision fatigue, and for the average person, they start off with a high tolerance to decision fatigue, and they're able to make level-headed, clear decisions at the start of the day, and that slowly tapers off, and toward the end of the day they make poor decisions. I was running on no sleep because of my sleep apnea, and my decision fatigue was poor. I was making poor decisions, not just when it came to food, but just in general, and I knew that I needed to be treated before I can get the rest of my health in order. So the first thing I did was I got a sleep study. It showed my apnea index was 81, which means that I would stop breathing 81 times every hour. That means more than once every minute. It's insane when I break down that number, but I felt that way. I could barely drive 30 minutes to and from my parents' house without having to, have my wife take over or pull over and take a nap. It was that bad. But luckily, I got a CPAP machine and I was able to get that taken care of. For those of you that may struggle with sleep apnea, that might be undiagnosed, and you're thinking about getting it treated, I highly recommend doing it. Please do it. Once you get a CPAP, it takes a month or two for you to start feeling the difference, but when you do, it is a game changer. It'll also motivate you to make other changes, and it's like a compounding effect on your health, and it's one of the probably the best thing that I ever did for my health. So that was first. I got a CPAP machine in February, and I saw the sleep medicine doctor in February, so I probably got it toward the end of March, and I've been using that ever since. I stopped using it recently after my most recent visit because the CPAP machines, they kind of communicate data to your provider, and I had mild, if anything, sleep apnea left after losing all this weight, so I was able to come off of the CPAP machine for now. But I definitely highly recommend treating your underlying conditions before you get started on your weight loss goal. My second issue, which was very hard for me to treat, was my binge eating disorder. I've struggled with binge eating since I want to say college. It was how I would handle stress. I went to Stony Brook University and I majored in biology with a focus in pre-medicine, and that is a very stressful, competitive field, and that it made me not happy for most of the days, and very stressed out all the time, and the only solace I could really find was food. So I would constantly binge eat. It's a habit that I unfortunately built up over years, and it would continuously get worse. But I knew I finally had to treat it. So as the sleep apnea was getting under control, I was able to make clearer decisions. It also made me want to eat healthier. The biggest thing I did for my binge eating disorder was one, intermittent fasting. I think intermittent fasting helped me get control over my eating habits, and I was able to set strict boundaries. However, that would not be completely. However, I think intermittent fasting alone I would not be able to succeed in. The next step that I'm about to tell you is what really kind of got everything in motion and really got my mind straight and helped me get over the binge eating disorder, and that is microdosing tirzepatide. So around the time that I was trying to lose weight, I initially started with just diet and exercise on my own for the first 2-3 months, and I lost 25-ish pounds. But being in the medical field, you hear about all these treatments and up and coming medications, and I heard about tirzepatide and semaglutide, and I was definitely intrigued. I was more so intrigued for the metabolic benefits rather than just the weight loss benefits, but I'm so happy that it has both. I didn't know if I would get coverage for it because I'm not a type 2 diabetic, and unfortunately I was right and I did not get coverage for it, but I was able to go through a compounding pharmacy and get compounded tirzepatide, and that was the biggest game changer. The recommended starting dose is 2.5 milligrams. However, I am a huge proponent that a lot of medications are overdosed, and you do not need such a high dose of any medication. I mean, at least to start with. And tirzepatide's starting dose was 2.5 milligrams weekly. I started at 1 milligram weekly, and I had great benefits. The biggest one was the food noise was almost gone. I mean, for those of you that don't know what food noise is, it's this nagging, constant thought about food. And if you've never experienced it, you will not be able to relate to it. But every second of every day, I was thinking about what I was going to eat for lunch, what I was going to eat for dinner. If I didn't like dinner, what would I eat after? And it was so bad, because the only thing I could look forward to and that gave me joy was food. It was really unhealthy, but microdosing tirzepatide really helped with that. So I'm going to make a full, in-depth, detailed video about microdosing GLP1 agonists. I think that the best GLP1 agonist to microdose is Ozempic or semaglutide, but I ended up starting with tirzepatide. You can do either. Semaglutide has stronger GLP1 activity. If you look at the kappa factor, which shows like binding affinity, it binds a lot stronger to GLP1 agonists, or it binds stronger to the GLP1 receptor. So it is a much better GLP1 agonist. Tirzepatide, however, it's a dual agonist. It has a GLP1 agonist and a GIP agonist. I'll break all of that down in a separate video. So stay tuned for that. But my personal experience, I was microdosing tirzepatide. I would do 1 milligram every 7 days. I did that for 8 weeks, and then the food noise started coming back. My weight loss stalled a little bit, so I increased the frequency of injections to 1 milligram every 5 days. When it comes to these medications, you can either increase the dose or you can increase the frequency. There's a plotter online. I'll link that below. It'll kind of if you can put in the dose that you take, the frequency, and it'll plot out the maximum concentration in your blood and the lowest during that time interval. It's a great plotter to use. You should play around with it, find the optimal concentration for yourself. But for me, it was 1 milligram every 7 days, and then 1 milligram every 5 days. I don't for people that do 2.5 milligrams every 7 days, I also consider that microdosing, and here's why. There's no concrete definition for microdosing GLP1 agonists. My definition personally is anything is dosing at a level that is considered subtherapeutic in clinical trials. So for tirzepatide specifically, the minimum therapeutic dose was 5 milligrams, at least based on the studies that they did. So 2.5 milligrams is an introductory dose that the FDA approved and that Eli Lilly recommend to at least get yourself used to side effects and make sure that you can adapt to the medication, but it's not a therapeutic dose. So I consider that microdosing. I didn't have to get up to that dose, but I do consider that if people say that they're microdosing, I do consider 2.5 milligrams in that range. So that really helped the food noise, helped my appetite, and it really accelerated the weight loss. It really kick-started my metabolism, which was down in the dumps, and I definitely had some sort of insulin resistance. I didn't have type 2 diabetes, but I had acanthosis nigrans, which is like the dark velvety patches around your neck or your knuckles and stuff like that. I had all of that, so I knew I had a level of insulin resistance, but obviously it wasn't high enough to be classified as type 2 diabetes. And, microdosing the tirzepatide just really improved my metabolism. It really got everything going, and it made my body just function properly. And during that time, as I was learning more about tirzepatide, not just the medication, but the peptide family that it's part of in general, I went down this rabbit hole of peptide therapy, and it's amazing. It truly is amazing. It's not something that we are taught in medical school, which is very unfortunate, because I do think that peptide therapy can provide so many benefits to patients, and there's such a wide array of uses. I mean, it's cheap to produce, which is probably why pharmaceutical companies don't want people to know about it, or there isn't much research that goes into it, because it is so easy to produce, and there's just such a wide array of them. So while I was going down that rabbit hole, I found out about the SEEDS Institute, the SSRP certification course, which is like the SEED Scientific Research Peptide or something like that certification course, which I was able to sign up for and be certified in peptide therapy. And it was great. It was great working and learning from like-minded individuals. I learned about so many different treatment options with peptide therapy, autoimmune conditions, vascular issues, as well as like neurocognitive issues. And that's kind of where my passion is kind of heading towards, right now, is vascular dementia and Alzheimer's dementia. Because unfortunately my grandfather had Alzheimer's dementia, and it's a tough disease to see someone that you love go through. Watching them slowly not know who they are, who the people around them are, where they are, and just once the mind goes, everything else unfortunately slowly follows. And if there's any way to kind of slow that progression, or even prevent it, I think that will be a complete game changer. And I want to be able to promote that knowledge and information to anyone that might be going through it or have loved ones that are going through it. But I get sidetracked. I'll make a totally different video about that later on. My goals with the channel, like I said, is just to provide as much knowledge regarding peptides, protocols, side effects, you name it. But yeah, as I got certified, I started adding more peptides into my regimen. The ones that I advocate for and that I was taking were tesamorelin, ipamorelin, and BPC. So I would do all three of those for 10-week cycles. So I would do 10 weeks on, and then I would cycle off 10 weeks, and then another 10 weeks on. You could do shorter cycles, longer cycles I don't recommend, but you can do shorter cycles if you want. And I do credit tesamorelin especially for helping me lose a lot of weight in my abdomen. My midsection is somewhere that I carried a lot of fat, and after taking 2 cycles of tesamorelin, I do believe my abdomen, or like my midsection, is the leanest it's ever been. So very fortunate that it worked in my favor. So far I kind of went over, treating the underlying conditions, microdosing tirzepatide, adding other peptides in. For me, that was BPC, tesamorelin, ipamorelin, and then I also started incorporating resistance training. There's a lot of data that shows that resistance training not only adds muscle mass, but it also helps the central nervous system, and it helps that mind-muscle connection. So I started adding that in 5 days a week. It was slow and steady. I didn't go 5 days a week initially. I think I started going like maybe twice a week, and then 3 times a week. Unfortunately, I think resistance training, and especially in a gym setting, is a situation where you can get very overwhelmed. You see other people lifting heavier than you, doing different workouts, and you wonder if you're doing the right thing or if you're doing the wrong thing. But I promise you that most of the time, as long as you're just lifting a weight, you are helping your muscle mass, and you're helping that mind-muscle connection. And I'll make more videos about that also. But resistance training is key. Is a very, very key component of longevity, especially as we age. You want to make sure you have that muscle mass to protect you in case of dramatic events like a fall or something like that. Most people, in the hospital setting that I see, they've been runners, or they have great cardiovascular health. However, they have a fall and they're so frail that kind of creates like a downward spiral, and they fall, they fracture a bone because they don't have the muscle mass, and they don't have that bone density to protect them, and their recovery isn't great. They're bedridden. They might form a clot. It's just very poor traumatic events, especially as you age, is a very poor prognostic factor. So trying to get that resistance training in, keep up that muscle mass, not only helps prevent, like I said, fractures and trauma as we age, but it also helps increase your metabolic rate. The more muscle you have, the more calories you're going to need to maintain that muscle, and your resting basal metabolic rate will also increase. So there's a lot of benefits to resistance training. The last, but definitely not the least, thing that I also did was intermittent fasting. Like I said, I had a huge issue with binge eating, and it was something that consumed my life. I would do, I tried every diet under the sun. I did keto, and at best case scenario, I think on keto I lost like 65 pounds. Then I would gain all of that back and more, because I would take a break from keto because of, like, let's say a family event or something, and then I would just continuously like delay going back onto keto, and during that time I would binge eat, and that would just with the intent that I'm going to get back on a diet but never really get back on it, and that just caused me to constantly gain weight, and it was very bad. I also tried like things like Nutrisystem. My parents were like, I think this was when I was in college, they were like, you're getting morbidly obese, like, we'll help you, what do you need? And they were, at the time, I think Nutrisystem was running like a ton of ads, and they're like, oh yeah, get on Nutrisystem. So I tried that, and that was horrible. I don't recommend any of that. For people that can do keto, or at least a low carb diet, there are a lot of benefits to it. However, for me, I was not someone that could stick to it like consistently. So the negatives definitely outweighed the benefits. But I was able to implement intermittent fasting, and that helped me mentally at least get control over my eating habits. I set a time window of 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. I would not eat before that, and I wouldn't eat after that. And that really helped me gain control over my eating issues. But I guess those were honestly the main things that really helped me. Like I said, I think microdosing the tirzepatide and the other peptides I was on really accelerated my weight loss and really helped optimize my body metabolically. And I still microdose tirzepatide. I'm not using tesamorelin or ipamorelin anymore. I don't really use any of the growth hormone analogs anymore, or secretagogues, just because there are studies that show that elevated IGF-1 levels lead to higher incidence of mortality. I need to look more into that. It seems like a lot of that was with bodybuilders who, honestly, they were using other things outside of just growth hormone and elevated IGF-1 levels. So there might be some confounding variables in that, but I'll have to look into that. But I've stopped using that for now. But yeah, like I said, still microdosing tirzepatide. Right now I'm on 1 milligram every 5 days, just for my metabolic health, just for the anti-inflammatory effects. If you look at the data, and like I said, I'm going to make tons of videos about the data and studies behind all of this, breaking it down into in the medical aspect, and just showing the benefits that tirzepatide and GLP1 agonists in general have been providing. So that's kind of my goals with the channel. I want to talk more about peptide therapy. It's, like I said, a passion of mine, especially when it comes to neurocognitive disease and being able to prevent that or slow the progression of that. So I'll be making more videos on that, protocols, peptides that could help with that, as well as optimizing your health, your metabolism, and promoting longevity. What are the peptides that we can use to improve our lifespan? So that is my goal with the channel, and I'll definitely be making more videos. I just wanted to create this as almost just a basic introduction, just so you guys can get to know me and my goals and my passions. So look forward to seeing you guys. And like, comment, subscribe. I'll leave my email below if you guys have any questions. But stay tuned for more videos. All right.